Captain, welcome to Elite TFO training, covering the Counterpoint mission from Stow Better. Let's review objectives.
The first objective of this TFO is to defend Deep Space Nine. On Elite, if the station's health drops to 0, the mission fails. Initially, there are 2 groups threatening the station that must be defeated. In the second stage, approach and close portals that will spawn periodically around Deep Space Nine over a 3-minute period. You must close at least 5 portals while continuing to defend DS9. Closing additional portals beyond 5 increases the mark rewards. After termination of the portal stage, the mirror station Terok Nor will appear. Transport assault teams from Deep Space Nine to Terok Nor during the next 7 minutes to send it back to the mirror universe. Your team must successfully ferry a minimum of 15 assault teams, and ferrying more will increase mark rewards. Defeating Terok Nor itself during this stage is an optional objective. In the final stage, 2 reinforcement groups will arrive. Both must be defeated within 3 minutes to complete the TFO.
Thank you. On to risks and rewards. This TFO needs moderate coordination and team composition to play well on Elite, since most objectives can be soloed. For best results, a team working together can maximize their performance, but the floor to simply complete the mission is fairly low. However, the threat level is high due to the many damage threats from Terran ships, combined with a large portion of the TFO requiring you to fly with your shields down. For rewards, you can expect potentially a very high amount of Terran or fleet marks, along with a chance for subspace comm power pieces. Rewards are based on how well the objectives are flown. Since most of the TFO is time-gated, it is one of the longer TFOs. The adversaries on this operation are Terrans. Terran ships are generally fragile, but many of them have dangerous abilities. Terran temporal ships like the Mobius, Wells, or Paradox classes have a large AoE disable that can freeze you in place, but this is more annoying than dangerous. On the other hand, numerous Terran vessels have feedback pulse, and the point defense system from Armitage escorts is incredibly dangerous within 5 kilometers. It is important to note that Counterpoint has 2 distinctly different objective sets in its 4 stages. The first and last stage are pure damage checks and involve defeating Terran fleets. The second and third stages are not focused on damage output. For maximum effectiveness, focus on closing portals and ferrying assault teams, rather than killing all the Terran ships that continually respawn. Keeping Deep Space Nine alive requires some damage, but that's not the focus, and it is fairly resilient. If your team has the firepower, defeating Terok Nor when it appears will reduce its firepower and complete that optional objective. In terms of team composition, this TFO is fairly forgiving. Exotic builds excel at clumping and destroying large groups of weak enemies and are unaffected by feedback pulse. Fast ships, such as full pilot ships, are likewise well suited to the portal and assault team stages. When transporting assault teams, your ship's shields will go offline, so if you rely on items like the shield absorptive frequency generator or reverse shield polarity for survival, you will be especially vulnerable. However, there is no tether distance on the team transport, so once you start beaming, you can turn around and head for the next objective. Now, combat footage will be shown to illustrate the principles discussed previously. The goal of this section is not to illustrate perfect piloting, but provide an example of how to successfully complete the map with all objectives and without dying. Note that for brevity's sake, the footage is usually sped up relative to in-game speed. Scatter volley builds are moderately successful on this TFO due to the numerous targets throughout the operation, but feedback pulse can be a major threat. In the opening stage, attack the groups of Terran ships until they are all defeated. Only the command battleships have any significant amount of hit points. The rest of the ships are relatively weak, but again, beware of feedback pulse on the science ships. Even if you are not directly targeting them, your scatter volley's damage can hit them and thus be reflected back to you. Otherwise, try and position to strike multiple ships at once to maximize your damage output and complete the stage faster.
The Terrans are... Deep Space Nine is under attack.
In the second stage, focus on closing portals unless you're the only AoE build. If that is the case, you will need to work on defending Deep Space Nine. Again, be aware of the dangerous Terran ship types, science vessels with feedback pulse, and also the escorts with point defense system can be deadly if you get too close to them. You must be within 7 kilometers of a portal to initiate closure, and they have a 10 kilometer leash distance once the closure has started. The minimap can help you easily find them if it's hard to see them through all of the visual effects. Engaging the Terrans at each portal is unnecessary and counterproductive. This stage continues for 3 minutes, and if the majority of the team focuses on portal closure, it's possible to close well over a dozen of them for significantly higher rewards than just closing the minimum 5. Deep Space Nine is fairly survivable, so while it's unwise to completely ignore the ships attacking it, it does not need to be babysat all the time in this stage.
Target shields have failed. Warning, ship is under attack.
At the start of the third stage, the combined team should launch a full-on assault on Terok Nord to disable it. Once disabled, it will no longer attempt to repair itself, which makes ferrying the assault team significantly easier. Once that is done, focus on ferrying assault teams back and forth between Deep Space Nine and Terok Nor. Remember that there is no leash distance, so once a transport is initiated, move to the next station. This is an excellent place to use speed boosts like evasive maneuvers to increase the number of trips taken, and the higher defense rating from moving at high speed will reduce incoming damage somewhat. With proper coordination and team composition, we've been able to transport over 80 assault teams in this stage, which significantly increases the TFO's reward. In the third stage, keep your weapons firing at targets of opportunity while ferrying assault teams. Your cannons might not defeat the larger Terran ships during brief passes, but you will whittle them down eventually, especially if your teammates are also doing the same. Remember that shield-based defensive abilities are not effective while performing a transport, and if flown properly, you will basically always be performing a transport in this stage once Terok Nor is disabled. Assault teams are the priority, not DPS. The Energy Refrequencer reputation trait is very helpful for scenarios like this, since it heals you continuously while you fire.
We've conquered everyone else in our reality. Yours will fall. The Emperor will crush you.
When Terran reinforcements arrive in the final stage, target the largest dreadnought and wipe them out. CSV builds excel in engaging large numbers of ships, so enjoy the fireworks, and avoid getting caught in the Mobius, Wells, or Paradox dreadnoughts AoE disable. However, there is one major danger. Try to avoid targeting science vessels if you can help it, as death by feedback pulse is a major consideration at this stage. In this playthrough, I waited to engage a few seconds before attacking the main group, until the flimsier science vessels had been destroyed by an allied exotic build, to avoid dying. Once the Terrans are defeated, the mission ends. Captain, if this breakdown helped you in your quest to play Stowe better, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. The link to the specific build used for this tutorial is in the description. For more guides and builds, check us out at www.stobetter.com.